now call upon the Honourable Minister for Agriculture, Dr. Reddy, to have his opening remarks now.
Excellency Jonathan Kay, the Resident High Commissioner of Fiji, my good old friend Dr. Mahendra, the executives of PIPON and Fiji Farmers Forum, the representatives of the Farmers Group, and also various stakeholders of the agriculture sector. Ladies and gentlemen, Abdullah to you all, and I also want to thank the forum for inviting myself to speak on this topic and this discussion that you are having here today. It couldn't have been any better timing of this, given the importance of agriculture, as alluded to by the previous speaker. Ladies and gentlemen, the current COVID-19 pandemic is indeed affecting the food system and economies around the globe, and Fiji is not an exception. The pandemic is challenging the livelihood of a significant extent of the population, whose income and employment are at risk due to loss of jobs in various sectors of the economy, and in the case of Fiji, tourism in particular. And it is at this time that everyone is looking forward to agriculture as the savior of the economy and also the communities out in the rural and maritime areas. Ladies and gentlemen, our Honourable Prime Minister in his latest statement highlighted that up to about 115,000 people have been affected through employment. Either they have lost their jobs completely or have been affected by reduced hours. Similarly, Reserve Bank has predicted that the worst is yet to come. We have predicted about our economy to contract this year by about 21.7%. So it's a situation that basically demonstrates that we really need to up our game and probably diversify and strengthen some of the sectors where we got a strategic advantage. Ladies and gentlemen, all of you are aware that early this year, as we were beginning to get the onslaught of COVID-19, we seized the opportunity through implementation of a number of incentives to fulfill two critical objectives of the Ministry of Agriculture. The first objective is to basically secure our household with respect to the accessibility and availability of food and nutritional goods. And second is to take this opportunity to expand agriculture to its full potential in raising our national income and becoming the leading exporter for the country. Now, often over the last 3 to 4 decades, you would have heard people arguing that agriculture needs to be supported, basically because it's so important for livelihood. So often, this argument of support to agriculture was based on how important it is for people's livelihood. But I argue otherwise. I argue that we should call for support to agriculture given its national importance, given its strategic importance to Fijian economy as it was. Some people are kind of misinterpreting statistics and saying that agriculture sector is declining. In fact, agriculture sector has never declined in terms of its output. Agricultural output has, in a real term, has been increasing. But its contribution to the overall output has been declining. It's a normal phenomenon. because over time, other sectors have expanded and they have taken an increasing share of the total output. So for example, 5 decades ago, agriculture's contribution was about 50% or so. Now, at that time, the other sectors, the industrial, manufacturing and service sectors was not that well developed. So agriculture was the major contributor to the economy, the single largest contributor to the economy. But over time, as agriculture, as other sectors started to grow, well, obviously agriculture's contribution to GDP started to decline. But it doesn't mean agricultural output in real terms was declining. Now, going back to the argument about increasing investment or increasing budgetary allocation to agriculture sector, my argument is that when the agricultural output increases, then all those who are engaged in the agriculture sector through various product and product market, let's say labor, those who supply land, those who supply various other inputs, the financial sector, all of them will benefit. And in this equation, livelihood issue will be dealt with. So if you just argue agricultural support based on the livelihood issue, you are underscoring the importance of agriculture sector. You're grossly underscoring the importance of agriculture. So I am arguing that look, agriculture should be supported, agricultural growth should be expanded in national interest, and the surplus that is created by the growth of agriculture sector, that surplus will be redistributed amongst all those who participate in the agricultural growth process. They participate through as a labor, as a farmer, as an entrepreneur, as those who are providing various inputs. Those who provide, let's say, organic manure will benefit through the sales to the agriculture sector. Those who supply labor will benefit through increased wages and salary. Those who supply land will benefit through increased rental rates. So I'm saying that let's not underscore the importance of agriculture sector by just arguing that it is so important to the livelihood of ordinary Fijians or those in the rural and maritime region. So it is important, and having said that, then we can then migrate the discussion towards the second critical strategic objective, and that is about expanding agriculture sector as a commercial operation. So, ladies and gentlemen, all of you are aware that the following in early this year we undertook a number of initiatives to quickly secure the households with respect to food and nutrition by providing them with planting material. Of course, some those who are always pessimistic have argued that ministry didn't do its part and only supplied planting material, but the output of that particular program is out there for you to see. Now, I don't think I would want to dwell too much on that. But ladies and gentlemen, on the second objective, we kind of changed the ministry's paradigm in terms of saying that look, instead of, and it's very important for farmers to understand this, incentivizing and promoting and pushing agriculture growth based on subsidies and grants, we are saying that is not sustainable. And that is what I term as a dependent agriculture or a bubble agriculture. And it will burst some point in time because subsidies and grants are never permanent. Its longevity is pushed or created through the political equations. So I'm saying, and it's very important that our farmers, agricultural entrepreneurs understand that the agriculture sector based on subsidies and grant, which is always supposed to be temporary, is not sustainable, and that paradigm won't work. And that is why, at the moment, we are struggling. Now we are changing the paradigm. We're saying, let's incentivize farmers by getting market to them, by providing market signal to them. Now, let me give you a simple example. Why has sugar industry for so long survived? Why has sugar industry for so long survived? A number of reasons. One is, sugar is a crop which can survive, hardy weather conditions. That's why, the Western Division, sugar is, grown in a large scale. Number two is that it is quite less labor intensive. But the single most important reason, despite farmers arguing every now and then that the return is not very high, and I don't want to get in detail with it, it's a different ministry, but the single most important reason why farmers, despite all those issues that they're raising on every now and then, they're stuck to it because they've got a guaranteed market. And for agricultural farmers, agricultural entrepreneurs, the most important worry to the farmer is, and you ask anyone, is that effort, the resources that I've devoted over the last 6 months or 1 year, whatever the crop cycle is, will I be able to sell the produce and cash in? And therefore, the most important issue for any farmer is market. And we're doing a paradigm shift in terms of saying that we will do our best to get the market to you by working very closely with the exporters, and we will try to get to you those public infrastructure that you as individual farmers may be difficult, and we will treat it as public goods. Construction of farm roads. And we've also said that we will organize provision of planting materials, expensive nurseries, irrigation support to farmers, machinery support to farmers, and of course market provision and development. So ladies and gentlemen, over the last 18 months, we have moved on with this paradigm, and we have seen the results which I'm going to shed some light on the output side. So ladies and gentlemen, it is very important that we look at agriculture in its totality, and we develop a model which is sustainable. We need to build institutions. People come and go, but institutions will remain. And it is important that we do not develop an institution which is not sustainable based on political expediency. So ladies and gentlemen, as I alluded to, that we have looked at establishing and promoting commercial agriculture, and the basic key attribute of what a commercial farmer is, in commercial agriculture is one, that farmers grow for the market. Vis-a-vis for 4 or 5 decades ago, where farmers were growing for themselves, and the surplus they were selling to the market. Now we're saying you grow for the market, and the surplus you can consume at home. Number two, the surplus that you create, part you will save, part you will spend on yourself, and part you will reinvest. That is very important and one of the crux of commercial entrepreneurship. And what we witness in Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Agriculture, every now and then the same farmer we have been assisted comes to us asking for support. And when we ask them, what have you done? Very little to show in terms of reinvesting. Very little to show. Now I argue that ministry is not there to bankroll them. And these are some of the bitter truths that it's important that we press it out. And today after tea, I want to stay behind for about 10-15 minutes and have an open, frank discussion. And you can ask any questions. I just don't want to speak and walk out. So you'll have the session. Now, with regard to commercial farms, sometimes people have got this notion stuck in their mind that a commercial agriculture is where you've got a large farm or plantation, and they ask, Minister, it's not possible. Where is the land to have a commercial farm? So, if you look at this particular model, we have a limited number of these. And a grassroots farm is grassroots. They are an example of a commercial farmer, commercial entrepreneur who have large tracts of land or have acquired large tracts of land, and they are undertaking commercial agriculture. Number two is where the second model is where you've got large commercial farms who would supply to a buyer or an exporter. So in the first model, the farmer itself is kind of a vertically integrated model. The commercial farmer acquires large tracts of land, produces, supplies the primary commodity to the market, exports, or converts the commodity into a product by processing or value adding. I'm going to come to that particular issue in a second. The second one, where there's a large commercial farm who would supply to a buyer or an exporter. And we have got a limited number of these whom we are working and supporting. The third model is where there's a large number of small to medium farms supplying to a buyer or an exporter. And we have got a large number of these. So there are a number of exporters. And these exporters produce from a large number of kind of homogeneous farmers whose holdings are around 10 acre, 12 acre, 15 acre, 20 acre, 30 acre as well. This is the third commercial model. The fourth commercial model is one where we have been quite actively involved. Is where a small but growing number of contracted farmers operating out of clusters, growing similar crops, supplying to buyers or exporters. So you've got, let's say in a particular area, there's a cluster of farmers whose holdings are 10 acre each, 12 acre each, 15 acre each. Pretty homogeneous in terms of skill sets, growing similar types of crops, so that's why we call a cluster, where we provide training and they also learn from each other. So we kind of synchronize the training and skill sets, and in this way also supply and quality is kind of consistent. So ladies and gentlemen, in a commercial model, the first best solution of option 1 and 2 may be limited due to some of the factors that we are facing, particularly land tenure system. So often you hear people argue that we can't do commercial farming because large tracts of land are not available. But the thing is that if the first best solution, the second best solution is not possible, it doesn't mean you can't pursue the strategic direction that you are looking at. So what we are looking at is we're working around the existing constraints and some of the binding constraints in agriculture sector. I do hope that today, the whole day, you will be able to piece out some of the critical binding constraints that are there in the agriculture sector and see how you can work around it. And we are examining how option 3 and option 4 are the ones that will push commercial agriculture. From the beginning, I'm talking about commercial agriculture because that is the way to go. And again, let me again reiterate that the old model of incentivizing the farmers through grants and subsidies is not the way to go and not sustainable. And we need to do a revolution with respect to the mindset and culture that exists, probably permeating from the sugar sector. Ladies and gentlemen, so over the years, agriculture has always been a very challenging activity, especially for farmers in the remote areas of Fiji for various reasons. And that is why it is important that we do everything possible to audit the supply chain and ensure that farmers in the rural and remote areas are connected to the market. And that is why communication systems and farm routes are very critical in the entire supply chain. At the same time, we are working with exporters to ensure that they are able to respond to the farmers, and the contract farming model is really doing wonders in terms of incentivizing the farmers. Because in the contract farming system, the farmers are given a base price upfront. So if you go and look at how they talk to farmers, they will tell you about how they were treated when they harvested their crop. And they had no other option but to sell it to the buyer or exporter who were at their doorstep. So who had the power in terms of determining what the price should be? You have got pretty much a monopoly buyer. You've got a pretty much a monopoly buyer, a monopoly market. In certain areas, it is basically a monopoly market. A single buyer and large number of suppliers. So who determines the price? And that is why we need to pursue a contract farming system. Ladies and gentlemen, there is also this notion about agriculture as a secondary sector for employment, as a profession. And that is why recently you would have seen that we have partnered with BSP to take them out to the farmers to give them various financial products, offer them financial products. We have taking FDP with us to explain to farmers the products that they have in terms of financing and resourcing the farmers. And we are taking Fiji National Provident Fund with us and making farmers members of the only national security institution that we have in Fiji. So that farmers too, when they are not that productive, are socially secure. So in this way, we are saying that agriculture as a profession probably is no different than some of the other professions like accountants or teachers. Probably the only difference is that in the other professions, your income level is determined by your employer, whereas in agriculture, your income level is determined by your effort, yourself. So ladies and gentlemen, one of the binding constraints in agriculture sector, one of the binding constraints is basically mechanization, and we, in the interim, we are providing with mechanization support to the farmers, but in the medium to long run, I think the model, given the existence of large number of, or majority farmers who are small size, who have small farm holdings, is to establish machinery supply hubs from where they can hire, closer to their area. I think that is something that we are talking to potential entrepreneurs who want to establish their machinery supply hub, and then farmers could then hire the machinery out from them. We are also looking at developing agriculture, organic manure. We are supporting basically utilization of organic manure. We are not totally in favor of utilizing the inorganic chemical fertilizer due to a number of reasons. But for farmers, one of the most important things is that fertilizer cost, unit cost of fertilizer is very high. And so by looking at the issue, environmental dimension as well, so we are promoting organic fertilizer, and we are developing organic fertilizer ourselves. We're also developing, we developed and launched the lactic acid bacteria, which will intensify the composting process as well as improve the soil condition when applied on the field. Ladies and gentlemen, you must have heard me saying that the next step, apart from expanding the base of the agriculture sector, is we need to undertake product development. Now, there is an extent to which we can expand the market for primary commodities. While we are pushing for expansion of agricultural growth, we also simultaneously have to ensure that there is markets. Otherwise, farmers will get discouraged. So in this, product development is key. And that's where food processors, agro-marketing authority, and private sector will come in and play a very important role. It will assist us in terms of dealing with the issue of perishability. It improves shelf life, helps in transportation, allows us to better plan in terms of when to push the product into the market. It definitely allows you to get more surplus and more profit. And of course, in terms of exports, it also helps you to deal with the issue of biosecurity with regard to fresh produce. So we now want to go big time into incentivizing the private sector to get into product development so that we can secure these benefits out of it and expand the market. The market for primary products is limited. The only way you can expand the market, apart from in the short to medium term by accessing new geographical area, is to develop products out of the primary commodities. So, ladies and gentlemen, we have a strategic advantage. Unlike some of the other countries where our climatic conditions can produce all year round, we've got very fertile land. We are able to brand our product. Our products, our commodities are can fetch very high price in the export market. Our ginger, for example, just to give you an example, ginger is now worldwide and fetches very premium price in the export market. We need to protect this brand image. It's very important going forward, and I think we need to work together with exporters, the farmers, to ensure that we protect the brand image of our commodities and the products that we derive out of the commodities. Ladies and gentlemen, I want to shed to you some light on how much difference we have made over the last 18 months. Over the first 6 months this year, our exports of fresh and chilled produce increased by 15% compared to the same period last year. From 4.9 million kg in 2019, the first 6 months, we jumped to 5.7 million kg in 2020. In value terms, in value terms, this increase is 11% increase from $24.1 million in 2019 first 6 months to $26.8 billion this first 6 months in January. This is just the beginning. This is the beginning. We had quite a few meetings with exporters, and despite the increase in freight rates, and as you can see, in real terms, that's why I gave the volume figure. This is not in nominal terms. In actual lifting of the containers, we increased the produce that we exported, fresh and chilled, by 15%. That's a significant achievement despite the challenges, the curfew hours, the lockdowns, in the first 6 months, we were able to increase export by 15%. I can tell you that the produce increase is certainly more than 15%. While some those who are quite pessimistic may argue that the produce that you see in the market here, the surge is because the hotels are closed. That's why those produce are pushed in. I can tell you, I have numbers in terms of produce in the past years that we have done substantially well over the last 18 months. And I think we need to keep up the momentum of this new paradigm shift that we have. It is to incentivize farmers based on market signals and assisting them with public goods and basically sending the message to them is that we're not going to pick up your operating expenditure. We cannot develop a culture of dependent agriculture model. So, ladies and gentlemen, I implore on all of you that you treat agriculture as a business, and when I say that you treat agriculture as a business, you compare yourself to this corner shop where who builds their shop infrastructure, who gives them the stock, what do they do with their surplus that they create. Then you will get to understand what I mean when I say that we want agricultural entrepreneurs. Of course, that doesn't mean that we are not supporting those subsistence farmers for food security reasons. They will be there, they will remain there, we will continue to support them. But we don't want leisure and part-timers to come and say that, look, we need to be bankrolled. We've got Fiji Development Bank, we are talking to them, and we're asking them to come and come with us and let's explain to the farmers what products they are on offer. So I wish you all the best in deliberations today, and I look forward to taking all the hard questions so that we solve all the doubts that you have, and remove all the doubts that you have today. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Dr. Reddy.
Questions?
While they are thinking about the question, I just want to make a clarification on the statement that agro-marketing should withdraw out of the horticulture sector. I think totally incorrect statement. Agro-marketing is not exporting any horticulture produce. They're exporting taro, ginger, and not ginger, taro and cassava, frozen and fresh, mostly frozen at the moment. The horticulture crops that they are collecting, at the moment they've signed up a contract with the cluster in Sambeto. I don't know why they're not invited. The largest cluster group in Sambeto, just on your backyard, they should have been here. Agro-marketing should have been here. You're discussing about them, but you haven't invited them. They should have been here. So, coming in? Is the Sambeto group there? Liaquat Ali and Vinesh Rai? No, they're not here. They haven't been invited. So they have signed up with the Sambeto group to collect all the bongo chilies and pass it to food processors. They're refusing to give it to any exporters because how the exporters have treated them in the past. So look, I think the truth must come out how the exporters have treated these farmers who are now moving away from exporters to agro-marketing authority. So I think let's talk it out. Let's press it out. And what is the real issue about agro-marketing, collecting produce from interior and maritime, where these exporters are refusing to go and collect, despite my writing to them and inviting them to come and join us, to go and sign up with these people in the interior, maritime, and collect produce. They're saying, no, you give us money, then we'll go. So look, let's talk it out. That's why I'm here.
Good morning, sir. I'm Charles McKay from the Fiji Beekeepers Association.
Yes, sir. I thought you'll be the first one to write to ministry and thank them for banning imidacloprid. You've been asking to ban imidacloprid for the last 12, 15 years, yes, but not a single acknowledgement of what the ministry did within my coming into the office of about 3 months.
Okay, my apologies on behalf of our organization for that, sir. I wanted to address you just regarding an export market. As you know, the honey industry is an up-and-coming industry in Fiji. The problem is that we have oversupplied now the local market. We need to start to look at an export market. It's very difficult for a lot of our beekeepers because they're very small operators, and potential exporters are a bit hesitant to buy from small people because they don't know about the quality. They don't have that assurance. Is there any way that agro-marketing perhaps can start to look at an export market for us?
It's a very good question you asked. The two things that you have touched on. First one is about market, but there's another very important thing that you mentioned about. You know, when you have these cottage industries producing, let's say, virgin coconut oil, ministry provided them with the equipment to produce, establish this cottage industry and sustain themselves. Similarly with honey. Now the problem is there. Problem that you in that particular model is the quality is not consistent. Now, if one particular processor, one particular exporter buys from them, and the exporter then labels that as that particular, let's say, food processor, so AMA's honey, there's a danger that the exporter will get into in terms of compromising their brand image, because you don't know what was the process adopted and what is the quality status of this different people supplying. So there's this dilemma that we are discussing within the ministry, saying that how do we address this? Of course, we give them a pro forma of how to exactly follow through, but then you need to monitor and ensure that and certify them. So that is something that we're dealing with, so that the quality is uniform, and whoever is buying agro-marketing authority or food processors or particular exporter knows exactly what's in there. All of them are of the same standard and quality, and then you can market. But I tell you what, the problem, the first issue that you've raised, it's a problem worldwide because of microorganisms in honey, that countries are restricting the export of honey or import of honey. So it is something that we need to really talk through with biosecurity and see whether we can open up honey export. And I agree, it is now, in fact, the agro-marketing authority was stuck with a major stock of honey, and I said that you hit the ground and get the stock out locally. But it's something that we wanna discuss probably with you coming on board and joining our team and see how we could deal with this particular issue of opening up a market. And we have to open up a market outside. Then only we can incentivize farmers to expand. Oh, I thought there would be fireworks. Yes, madam.
My name is Reddy, and I'm from the South and Floriculture Support Association.
I can't hear you, madam.
I'm from the Floriculture Support Association and
Yes,
South Sea Orchid.
Yes, madam.
What I'm to ask is, we in the floriculture industry have been trying for years, when I say years, literally more than 5-6 years, nearly 10, asking agriculture to recognize floriculture as an industry. They say that they have, I've spoken to some of the people in the ministry and said that they do recognize us, but they've put us under cottage industry. Now nobody wants, when we're looking for where's floriculture, we have to go to cottage industry. No one goes into cottage industry for your flowers. And the other thing is, when we had a few hurricanes back, some of my growers went into Nandi and asked for some help because they were all flooded out and all their plants were flooded and they had a lot of damage. The people in the ministry there told them that they don't support the flower industry, they only support food security. So none of our guys got any help at all. So what I did was I wrote to the ministry and I got a letter back to say that it wasn't in something or other, there was a big long letter. Well, I'm tired of having the same story all the time and I'm tired of asking the same thing. What they said, in other words, that we have to go to this area, this area, this area to go and find whatever we need, if we need help. But what we're trying to say is floriculture is part of agriculture. We are horticulture. And we just need to be recognized. Last year we had our forum, and we were asked to give you the results of it, and I sent it into the ministry, and Dr. McGregor was going to try and get an appointment with you for me to go and see you, but COVID came, so we couldn't go, and everything mucked up. But I'm asking you now to please look into it, because we do, we have more than 100 people at that last meeting last year, and the amount of money that 100 people that were there at the meeting, they made over 500,000 a year selling their flowers. And then, we're trying to, it's a big industry where we are earning a lot of money. That's only 100 people. There were other people that were landscaping. Can you
Okay, yeah, madam. I've got to clearly. I can't disagree with you any less. I suggest that we will organize a kind of a half-day discussion forum, totally at our expense. We'll invite you, all your members, over and come up with a strategy going forward, and we will definitely support floriculture. You can talk to our head of policy here. Some time back, I think we developed a cabinet paper last year to allocate some resources to support floriculture. And it is a growing and developing industry. I fully agree with you, and it has now taken up a very important place as an industry on its own. So you have my full support. Tell your members full support, and we'll develop a policy around it after the half-day forum that we will organize. You want it in Suva, we will do it there. You want it in West, we will do it there at our expense.
Bulunaka,
Mbula.
Minister, Jose Wutikalul, Fiji Cocoa Farmers Association President from the Fiji Crops and Livestock Council. I was trying to raise a point about, McGregor was raising that point, but air freight for products. Our US market was trying to buy Fiji cocoa, and they gave us a price for $4 US, $4 US. It's 8 Fiji dollar, and we like that price. So he needs some sample. So we sent him the sample. We sent the sample to New York, and it cost us $700 to send 5 kg dried beans for the sample. So we spent $500. And he needs to buy a ton of Fiji cocoa. So I don't know how much it will cost for the freight. We sent it through DHL Express, and we spent $700 there. So I really like the point that McGregor was raising up about the freight for the products being exported. Thank you, Mr. Minister.
Okay, the point raised by Dr. McGregor and your good self is very pertinent. I had wanted to make a budget submission last year, and I met the exporters at our Lenga conference specifically, and I had asked them if they could submit to me their proposal on what they want to see in the budget. Budget has come and gone. To date, I haven't received any submission from them. I would want to get a submission from the exporters before I talk to the Minister for Economy, whether we could probably put some a special request to some of the development partners. We got the New Zealand here who have supported us a lot in the livestock sector as well. Until, let's say, up till June next year, probably a small percentage of the freight cost could be subsidized or picked up. So we might, there's other pockets of money outside that we could make the submission. but it's important that we get a submission from exporters so that, I also can have the ammunition with me. So I implore on you to, if you could organize the exporters to get me. I think that probably that in the interim that could be the main submission, but more detailed submission for the next budget could come later.
Good morning, Minister. Lavanya Kametato, and I'm a farmer. I have a lease here in Votolevo, but my lease is only 30 years. I have a second lease in Navakai, but that's Crown lease, and I just got my 99 years. My question to you, Minister, is as a farmer, I'd like to invest commercially in my in my Votolevo farm, which has 30 years. But it's pretty challenging because it's only 30 years. Can your ministry help in liaison with the Ministry of Lands and the Itauke to help us farmers who have short-term leases in agriculture to extend the leases so that when it's extended, we can really invest commercially into our farms? Thank you.
There was a issue that we ourselves had raised with Honorable Prime Minister, who is the chairman of ETLTV board, and we had a submission by ETLTV to the cabinet about a couple of months ago. It was more on rental rates and renewal fees. Now, I had also raised this issue with ETLTB separately because from last year we are now going big time into establishing orchards, fruit tree orchards. Because at the moment most of the fruits, apart from papaya and a few others, that we don't have orchards. It's wildly grown. Of course, one of the good things is that they're all organic. For example, breadfruit. Breadfruit is totally 100% the breadfruit you get is organic. And we want to establish orchards. Now, if you want to establish mangosteen orchard, it takes 13 years for mangosteen to fruit. So we will need longer term lease for orchards, for tree crops in particular. So I see that as a binding constraint for investment in agriculture and certain crops which are long term in nature, and livestock as well. Let's say beef cattle and dairy cattle. So it's something on our discussion table, but we haven't really moved forward on that. I suggest that in this forum, once we come up with resolutions, that could be one of those, because I can use that as well. While I'm taking your concern raised now, but I also suggest that it comes out as a resolution of this forum, so it'll help me in the discussion with ELTB and Honorable Prime Minister, who is the chair of ETLTB board.
Mr. Minister, I'm Father Isaiah Werona from the Tuturu Training Center. I just would like to support the recommendation that was discussed by Mr. Andrew McGregor, especially for the area of the Kondrami and Boy and Manuata. Support for the outreach programs, especially for visitations, with the grant that we are given, looking at the demands of people, especially during this COVID-19. A lot of people from urban areas are going back to farm their own lands. So there are a lot of young farmers out there wanting to come to Tutu for training. But we cannot meet all of the demands, especially in the areas of the Kondrami, Bo and Maduata, where there are a lot of participants coming from there. Young farmers as well as the married couples, 6 months course, and also for the young single women. Through these different programs, for the young farmers, they have 3-year programs. It continues, after 3 years it continues. And for the young single women, 6 months. And also for the married couple 6 months also. Within that period, we also do a lot of visitations to also our alumni and follow up on our present young farmers and also married couples as well as the young single women. So we really need support financially to meet up the demands. There are a lot of demands out there, but we cannot meet all the demands according to the little expenses in the budget that we have. So we are urging for the support for that side of our work, especially connecting also with the Ministry of Agriculture, Extension Services, which they really help us. They also come with us during visitation, but our concern is the amount of a fund that we use is less compared to the demands coming out from the people.
Thank you, sir. I acknowledge the contribution of Tutu Agriculture Institute in terms of developing commercial farmers. They've done a marvelous job. We are providing grant to Tutu. So I think in the next budget cycle, I suggest that we do make a submission to ministry. But also, we can also look at other indirect support, like I think last year we gave you a dryer. So there are other ways of supporting as well. And I mean, apart from the direct grant that we're giving, we will await your submission for the next budget. But apart from that, I suggest that we also look at other support that we can provide, which then can save cost, and then you can direct that money to other areas. So the various ways of supporting, and there's no doubt about it. Our commitment to giving to the growth and development of commercial agriculture via developing young the cadre every year of commercial farmers.
I'm Joseph Hill. I come from, I'm with the Fiji Crop and Livestock Council. As the president of Fruits and Vegetables in Fiji. We would like to thank you very much for the assistance that you have done to the farmers this year. Though we have a very hard time through those three disasters and flood and also this COVID-19. We would like to thank you very much for your support to all the farmers down there in Singapore for the seeds and savings. The second thing that I really want to inform you today about the curfew hours. Normally our curfew hours, if it's possible for our local supply out to all the corridors in Fiji, because right now English cabbage, we planted a lot of English cabbage right up in the Singapore Valley. We send it out to all corridors. This is a very hard time for us. If there's any availability so that we can have a pass or any time, because we really work hard from the morning till 6 o'clock till the afternoon. And we have to drive like 5 hours up to the supermarket. If there's any possibility, can accept with us to help us with a pass, please.
Yes, that's possible. So we just, what we need is a formal request so that we can liaise with Ministry of Health and Fiji Police Force to organize a pass for those of you who need for that kind of purposes. Yes.
Honorable Minister, my name is Sant Kumar. I'm Kainandi. And my question is general, not on production or anything. I think the next speaker is going to bring that issue, land degradation. And I think Peter, last night, another program, this TV1, we tried to explain the land degradation, what is happening in Tabiuni. And they are really worried about it. And my more than 60 years of experience in agriculture, I think it's not only happening in Fiji, it's happening everywhere. in Bitilevu, Banwalevu, and even the smaller islands. And my experience with this, we are focused with production, marketing, and export and all that. But the land that is going to produce is degrading every year. You only have to stand on a river bank on a flooded rainy day, and you see thousands of tons of soil going down the, and then we're spending millions of dollars to try to clear the river mouth. Now, when I was a young lad in Ministry of Agriculture in the mid-60s, I was in Central Division, and we were told that any farmer clearing the land more than 15% slope, you visit him and advise him about soil conservation. And we used to go down and carry our avenue level and mark the contour and tell him to plant one contour and then also plant vetiver grass, which is a very good source of soil conservation. And now, and at that time we had the Soil Conservation Act, under which the Soil Conservation Board used to be appointed. And then in the Ministry of Agriculture we have the Soil Conservation Unit. And Mr. Whiteside was the first conservation officer from Australia. And the unit was based in Cornevia. And after a couple of years, this unit is not working. I don't know what is happening. And the act is still there, but I think if we don't do anything to try to prevent the soil where it is and make it more fertile, it's going to affect our production. It's happening in sugarcane, it's happening in Dalo and in Mona and Teveni, and it's happening everywhere. And I think we're trying to keep our children back on farm. But if we don't do anything about the fertility, stop this land degradation, I think we won't be able to stop them from migrating to Australia and New Zealand. I think one man, he is not here today, I'll give credit to him, Peter Drysdale. Time and again, he has brought this issue with facts and figures. I'm standing here, I don't have facts and figures, but it's a general issue. And Peter has brought it several times, so I think my request is here to, I think not only Ministry of Agriculture, other ministries should get together and try to maintain the fertility. And I think if we don't do that, no government of that day will be able to put that soil where it was back and make it more fertile. And with those few words, I'm standing here. I've talked to the previous forums. Today I'm talking to this forum. I may not be around for the next forum. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Sankumar. Very aptly said. I totally agree with you. Not that nothing is happening, but more should happen given the rate at which land degradation is happening in Fiji. You must have seen tomorrow is International Day of Rivers, and tomorrow we'll be making a major announcement about how we're going to protect our waterways, how many sites through vetiver grass technology. You must have also heard about the 3 nurseries that we have established, vetiver nurseries, basically to protect our waterways, protect land. And these nurseries will provide planting material free to anyone, and we even to the extent that we will deliver it to their doorstep. Just yesterday, we were having a forum with Ministry of Waterways and Environment, where I said that we now need to develop a comprehensive plan on how people should conduct themselves in our catchments and watershed. A lot of the issues that we are finding downstream in our waterways, around our waterways, is because of what's happening upstream in our catchment and watershed. And the way people conduct themselves, loggers, agricultural activity, etc., now is really very worrying in terms of not only the land degradation upstream, but the amount of resources that we're devoting to maintain our waterways downstream. So we are very concerned. We are doing quite a bit, but I think we might have to look at other ways of addressing and also increase the speed at which we are doing these things to protect our land from degrading. Thank you.
We'll take two more questions because it's a bit short of time. So another two questions after this one.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. My name is Lisa, and I'm a farmer from the province of Boa. They say of us in Venezuela that we don't suffer from poverty as such, but we suffer from the poverty of opportunity. From my experience as a farmer, it's very hard or difficult for us to get a variety of suckers and seedlings in your research stations in the Kondrove or even in Maduata. So as a farmer from Boa, I have to travel all the way to these farmers, and they only have often offer us just one crop. It's either pineapple or grog. If you want to diversify, there's very limited options. However, if you come over to Vitilevu, then you have a lot more variety. Your Singatoka research station has a lot to offer us. We have a biosecurity challenge which requires us to have all the plants tested, which is costly if we want to take it over to Vitilevu. And then also we have to go around, like if I want to plant cocoa, I have to go around to the other side of Vitilevu. So my question to you is how challenging or what can you do as a minister to ensure that your research stations in Vanuatu can better support us in terms of diversity? My first question. My second is, as a woman interacting with your ministry, is it really difficult to set up gender desks for us? The first time, I'm a third generation farmer. My grandfather was a commercial cattle farmer, but I didn't want to go into cattle ranching. But the first time I interacted with your ministry, they told me that I should go into horticulture. And of course, as you know, in Vanuatu, we don't have the opportunity of tourism industry, so I have a market access problem. And so if it's possible for your ministry to have people who are trained so that they could handle and support people like myself who are into farming, perhaps, like to explore a bit on the cottage industry as well, and better give us the advice that we need. And maybe the third comment that I'd like to make is on the felling of timber. My farm is on the main road, but there are bigger players from that log timber that impact us. Often there is no policy coordination amongst the ministry. So the Ministry of Forestry, Ministry of Itoke issuing a felling license, and there is no consultation with those of us who are at the bottom of the scale on how that impacts us. So if they fell up on the hills, then it impacts the rivers, it impacts those of us that rely on that river. And my tribe actually has a catchment for the Fiji Water Authority that also impacts the water levels that go into the catchment. So is it possible to have all the ministries coordinating, even when it comes to the issuing of logging license? Thank you.
Okay, the three questions. Let me answer the last one first. Whenever a logging license is given, the logging company needs to do an environmental impact assessment. For the environmental impact assessment, one component is public consultation. Now, so it's compulsory, they must undertake a public consultation and where public can come and raise the issue. Now, public consultation is undertaken in around that area where the logging will be undertaken. So in the case that you raised, you're saying that you are in the downstream. So certainly, you probably, no one came to you or your area and said that there will be a public consultation upstream. However, it's a requirement that all EIA public consultation are advertised in the papers. So I don't know, again, I need to think because not always people in the interior will be able to get the paper on time to see that there is a public consultation. So let me think about it, how to address that issue. On the second issue that you raised, again, I need to think, I need to discuss with my team, policy team, and get back to you, because it's something that we haven't thought of, to be honest. Establishing a gender desk and having them trained and skilled to deal with probably some specific issues about also how we respond to sometimes our own officers. I agree, probably think that certain areas of farming can only be done by a particular gender. So I think we need to get out of that mindset as well. So we will discuss, we will have a discussion and probably think about it. On the first one, when was the last time you went to the nearest agriculture extension office? 7 months ago. I think that's where you missed out. About in February, March, April, we made the announcement of the two programs. One is the backyard gardening program, where we had 2 cycles over 2 months that you go and pick up the seed at no cost to you, all urban and peri-urban households, and do backyard gardening. The second one was farm response package, where you go and ask for planting material, whether it's suckers or cutting or dry seeds. And then about 3 weeks ago, we opened 1st of September the second round, where you can go to the nearest extension office and say, you want Tausala suckers for 2 acres planting material. We will give it to you at no cost to you. You don't have to come to here or Mombasa or anywhere. Or you want yellow cassava cutting for 5 acres. At no cost to you, we will deliver it to the farm. Again, for dry seeds, we may be able to give you within same day or couple of days. For cutting and suckers, you need to place the order and we'll price it. We buy it. We don't carry with us. So things have changed.
Hello, good morning, Honorable Reddy. My name is Fane Raravula, and I'm a farmer first. So today I'm going to ask 2 questions. First, on the hat that I'm wearing as a farmer from Dakunikoro in Pacific Harbour, and secondly, as the president of the Fiji Mushroom Growers Association. I can't help myself, but I've got to take a jab at you this morning. So the first one, we at Dakunikoro, we're challenged with the rain. There's a lot of rain in Pacific Harbour. Now there seems to be a lot of interest since 2 years ago on our land. We sort of set up a little hut there with 2 rooms and got started with clearing at least about 2.5 to 3 acres of our 35 acres. Since then, a lot of people have come up to try and clear their land. My concern is, and I've been talking to forestry as well, is the challenge we're going to face with having to cut down trees and not replace them because of the biodiversity. There's so many lovely birds there and the insects. So what I'd like to ask Dr. Reddy is if one of your staff could come and join our group of people to discuss the way forward with the potential farmers in Dakunikoro, because the land there is quite challenging. And also too, on our roads, there was a funding of 1.2 million allotted by your ministry, but that was rescinded after the COVID-19. So we got together, a few of us, and cleared at least 200 meters of our road there. We also wrote to the Waterways Director. He answered after 2 months, but he answered anyway to come and have a look at the challenges that we face with the waterways in Dakunikoro. So what I'm really asking is whether one of your high officers, your senior officers, could come and talk with us so we could see a way forward and get some collaboration. That's the first question.
Can I answer just before I forget? So there are two parts to your question. The first one was about biodiversity. Sarah Bose is here, who is the head of policy. If you could just leave your contact details, okay. I'll organize an environment officer to come and discuss with you the biodiversity part.
Wonderful.
The second part was on Farm Road. As you know, that I see that as a binding constraint, and we have established a separate section to deal with Farm Road requests. And there's a massive backlog. I want to assure you that we will do your Farm Road at our cost, full cost. But I can't give you a timeline now, and it will be rather unfortunate because we are running short of the machinery and equipment. We want to establish about 4 sets of machinery for each division. A set we will do farm road by us. We're going to do it. We do it at 6,000 a kilometer. We give it out to a contractor. They charge us $40,000. So by doing in-house, we are able to save substantial amount of money. Using that money, we can do more roads. So we will do yours. But I'll get someone to come down and assess that and see. And that time we will be able to give you a time frame. Next question.
My next question, as the president of the Fiji Mushroom Growth Association, we're just an association that was formed after we attended the 31st training at the Jinchao Center last year. We formed the association in November, and we got our registration in February this year through the Fiji Crop and Livestock Council. Although we're not a crop, we're a fungi, what we wanted to do was that the view was that we would form a group of smallholder farmers so that we could get, one is focus on the quality, but one of the challenges we face with the surge in mushroom cultivation of late is the need to have facilities in place, like the chiller facilities, because it's a short-term crop and has a short shelf life. We need those facilities in place, because when I attended the training last year, I asked Professor Lin, what is the sustainability of this industry? Because really we need to look at the longevity of it, although it's a short-term crop, like the continuity of it and how the farmers can grow it between what they plant already. So what I'm really asking is if I could have an audience with yourself or your permanent secretary to discuss the way forward, because I can see some mushroom growers that attended the training here sitting in this house, and I'd really like to see the mushroom growers really forge forward as a short-term crop. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. I met Dr. Lin about 2 years ago, and I told him that I'm very disappointed with the output of that particular program. And I said, in 12 months' time, I want to see commercial mushroom farmers on their own. I said, this model where you're giving them that substrate won't work. It's not sustainable. You cannot continue to give substrate. I want them to have their own substrate, have their own cool room, and grow their mushroom. After 12 months, I visited him about 6 weeks ago. I told him that I think you better wind down, close the thing, and that we're not going to sign the renewal of that particular program, unless in 2 months' time I see some commercial mushroom farmers. I want to say that in 2 months' time, I've seen 2 commercial farmers on their own now, and both of them, we have given them a cool room. The offer is there for you. We'll give you a container, you put the aircon system there, and start up your mushroom. Yeah? Have your own substrate. Don't depend on that Junko Center, because that's going to close, and then that's it. So I get 3 more operators. So we will have 5 commercial mushroom. I tell you that those 2, they are now selling out of this mainstream supermarkets, and they are now looking at exporting, in large quantity. So very happy with the progress in such a short period of time. So Sarah is here. Get your contact. We organize the container for you.
Thank you, Dr. Reddy. I also want to mention that Party, Vinit is actually one of the projects for agri-tourism with Party. So Vinit Lau from our growers in Otoka, which was part of what you funded. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I think we need to, there's other presenters, so.
Sorry, Mr. Minister.
Last question.
Yeah, okay.
Please don't drop a bomb, eh?
I've got a major concern here, Mr. Minister, in regards to chemical use, such as weedicides. Just one question is, I'd like to ask if the Ministry is ever thinking of conducting a class or whatever it is to farmers in the use of chemicals and weedicides. I know paraquat's been banned, but I think it came a bit late. I'm just talking on that with my concern on the crops that we are selling. Like one of the major, I'm a tallow farmer as well, and I got this experience from one of the big copper producers on the south end of Taveuni, having his coconut oil rejected in Australia for the content of paraquat in his oil. And this is real. I got witnesses here, if you want to know. Maybe you have some idea of what's happening. So I'd just like to ask you if it's possible to have our soils tested to help the farmers to see the chemical content in our soils. Thank you.
Okay. The two issues here that you raised. First one is about usage of pesticides in general and weedicides amongst them. As you know, we in the first round we immediately undertook a consultation and took a paper to cabinet and banned imidacloprid for reasons it was affecting the population, and secondly paraquat because of its effect on health and as well as environment and crop residue, chemical residue on crops and has effect on consumption. Then we opened up the consultation for the next round of review of other chemicals so that we can see what we can ban, the importation of chemicals in Fiji. We just cannot ban, even though I'm totally against it given my other head that I wear as Minister for Environment, but we need to have alternatives. Now the submission that we got, very poor submission, and then when we make decision, the same group will come and say, "Oh, Minister, we were not consulted." So really, we don't want to rush with it. We will probably have again another round of call for submissions and consultation. But one of the crucial aspect of any policy that we develop is what is the alternative so that agriculture production is not affected. Now the other question that you raised to us about the soil analysis. Good news for all the farmers is that we have announced second country in the world to provide soil health card to the farmers. So farmers can raise it with our extension officer, where we'll come and do a test of the soil of your farm and give you a soil health card, which can be then reviewed maybe every year or every second year. So in that it'll pick up the chemical composition. Thank you.
Dr. Reddy, thank you for your time. If I may just have one moment. It's not a question, it's more of a suggestion, thought or proposal. I was a taro exporter for 20 years into Hawaii, and I processed in Taviuni. But the thing is here is I had never gone into the New Zealand market, into the Auckland market. It's huge. But because of the you might say the bottleneck down there, and this issue is in regards to marketing. The traders down there who trade with people in Fiji who have long relationships, and if you come in as a potential exporter and knock on their door, you're at a huge disadvantage. When I went to Hawaii, I went to actually go there because of the fish market, and that was an open process. So what I'm leading to is a potential market, open market in New Zealand, in Auckland, that would sell all Fiji produce down there, and maybe the other outer islands. And that way we would sort of deregulate the market here and on both ends actually. Rather than having big, large processors or exporters from Fiji, it will allow some smaller entrepreneurs to get involved, to get into those markets. Anyway, it's something I think we think about. I know there's a lot of roadblocks on the way, but that's what I'm suggesting. Thank you. Dr. Reddy, really appreciate that you have given us time over for the Stellanor session. It's one of the first I've experienced in a long time. I think we all appreciate it, and we'll put our hands together for giving us that time.